Okay, welcome to tonight's Tanya class. We are studying chapter 51, Perek and Aleph in Tanya. And as always, every chapter is unique and special because this is the Bible of mysticism. And tonight we're going to be discussing an important Kabbalistic concept, and that is the distribution center for godly energy. In other words, on one hand we know that God's all over, right? Is there a place where God isn't? God's all over. But on the other hand, we know that there are certain places, for example, as a temple, Kodesh HaKodashim, the Holy of Holies. It's called the Holy of Holies for a reason. So there's Holy and there's Holy of Holies. But nevertheless, we're saying God's all over. So the author begins this chapter, chapter 51, by taking us back for a moment to chapter 35 in Tanya, where in chapter 35 in Tanya, the author quotes from the Zohar. And he brings down from the Yenuka, which is from the Zohar, that says as follows, that it says in the verse, HaChacham, the wise person, Eina Barosho. That's what it says. What does that mean? That the wise person, his eyes are in his head. So the Zohar asks a simple question, what, do you see anybody with the eyes not in their head? Everyone's eyes are in their head. So what does that mean? Hi, welcome, come inside. There's a chair here, there's a chair there. What does it mean when we say that the Chacham, that the wise person, his eyes are in his head? So the Zohar goes on to explain, still from the Zohar, that a person should not go 4 cubits, at least a man, without covering his head. And the reason is because the Shekhinah, the divine presence, is on your head. Now, what does that mean, the Shekhinah is on your head? So the Zohar says like this: since the Shekhinah is on your head, God's presence is on your head. Now, if God is on your head, God is right above you, how does that feel? Good? Only good?
Real good.
Real good. Let's get, can we get a little better than that?
Marvelous.
Marvelous, right? It's awesome. If God is on your head, I mean, come on. Feel safe, secure, happy. Wonderful, right? God's on your head. So the Zohar says, since God is on your head, and it feels great, and it's a good thing, so what do you want to make sure? You want to make sure that God stays on your head. Right? If you have a good thing, you want to make sure you keep it. Because in life, we get things, but then we lose it. So we want to have it, but we want to maintain it. So the Zohar says, how do you maintain that God should stay on your head? So the Zohar says, the way you maintain that the God should stay on your head is by feeding it. How do you feed it? You feed it mitzvot. So when you feed God mitzvot, then God stays in your head. What does that mean? What does that mean? Very simple. God is on our head. Free ticket. But God also gave us ways to connect to Him. And with every connection, you're keeping connected to God. So how do you keep connected to God? By studying Torah, by praying, and doing mitzvot. So the Zohar says when you study Torah, that's great. But that's your studying Torah. And again, it's wonderful. It's a wonderful thing to do. But it's your studying Torah, your comprehension, the way you understand the Torah. When you're praying, it's what you're bringing to the table. Oh, a lot of people love prayer. But it's all about them, that they feel that connection. They're creating the connection. When it comes to mitzvot, who's the subject matter in the mitzvah? God. You didn't design the mitzvah, you didn't create the mitzvah, you're just doing the mitzvah. So mitzvot, in chapter 35, based on the Zohar, the author brings out that mitzvot are the most powerful ways for us to create the connection and maintain the connection. And more importantly, when we do the mitzvah, you know what happens? The Shekhinah that's on your head stays there. That's what the Zohar says. So it comes along in this chapter 51, the author says, 1 second, what does that mean? That the Shekhinah is more in your head than anywhere else? In other words, on one hand we're saying, yeah, the Shekhinah is more in your head. But on the other hand, what do we know? That God's all over. Meloi kol ha'aretz kvodo. The whole world is filled with God's presence. So if the whole world is filled with God's presence, what does that mean on your head? And if it's on your head, it means God's not all over. So here the Alter Rebbe takes us into a journey, an important journey, based on a verse in Job that says, Mipsari echze Elokah. That means, if you want to see God, if you want to understand God, Mipsari echze Elokah. What does that mean? When you look at your flesh, you look at your body, and you take a deep look at it, and sometimes you need assistance, from Kabbalah and Zohar and mysticism to help you, guide you with a magnifying glass, and you look at the way your body is structured, physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, on all levels, guess what will happen? You will get to see God and the way God operates. So, based on that, the Alter Rebbe says like this. Let's look at our body. We have a physical body, head, body, hands, feet, everything that's inside, and so on and so forth. But what do we have in our body that gives us the life, the real life, is the neshama, the soul. Neshama in Hebrew, soul in English. In other words, when the neshama is within us, then we're alive, spiritually. When God forbid the neshama leaves, the soul leaves, it's a body without a soul, and it's more or less over. Now, so the neshama is our life force. We all have a neshama. Now, the reality is, when you look at the neshama, the soul, the way it comes into the body, so on one level, the soul gives life to every single part of the body equally. Think about it. Is your head more alive than your feet? No. They're all alive. If I say to you, where are you more alive? What do you mean? Either I'm alive or you're dead. In other words, when it comes to life, either you're alive or you're dead. So if you're alive all over. What does it mean all over? Head, the hands, feet, all over. You're totally alive. There is no difference. What does that mean? That means when the soul gives you life force, you're totally lit up. It's like, for example, let's say you come into this room, and let's say there was no windows, and it was totally pitch black, and you put the light on, right? So is there a place in the room that there's no light? It doesn't make a difference if it's right next to the bulb, or if it's in the corner. Wherever in this room has light. This room is lit up. The same thing also with our neshama, when it lights us up, it gives us full life. We're all over. That is called the etzem haneshama, the essence of the soul, the deepest part of the soul, that gives every single part of us life. And we're totally alive. Top to bottom, bottom to top, right to left, sideways, on all levels, we're alive. The neshama gives us life. Now, that's from one perspective. Let's put it on the shelf for a second. So again, the etzem haneshama, the essence of the soul, which is the most powerful part, plugged in, everyone gets light. Now, on the other hand, when you give a look deeper, we have, for example, eyes that we see, right? Now, we have the eyes that we see, that's physical eyes. That's the physical eye. But in the physical eye, in order to see, do you need the neshama to give that electricity, spiritual electricity? Absolutely. Otherwise, you wouldn't see. So in the eye that sees, there's two parts. There's the physical eye, but then there's the neshama that gives it life force. What's the biggest proof? When someone dies, the neshama leaves the body. The eye leaves too? The eye stays there. The eye is the vehicle that it uses to see. But without the neshama, what's the eye worth? It's worthless. It's a partnership. The neshama without the physical eye, it's going to be a problem too. But the point is, it's a pair that goes together. It's the physical neshama eye, and the neshama that gives it life. Now, we have ears, right? Same thing with the ears. We hear because we have the physical component that allows us to hear, but we also have the neshama giving it life force. the power to smell, for example. So you smell through your nose, but the neshama gives it life that you can smell. Speech, the mouth allows you to speak with the power of the soul that gives you life force in the mouth. The same thing with your hands move, right? Your feet. So in each one of these unique, special gifts that we have, eyes, ears, nose, mouth, we can go talk about the heart, the hands, the feet, right? Every part of us, there's the technical component that takes place, but then there's the neshama that gives it life force. Now, why is it that the eye is the one that sees, and the ear is the one that hears, and the nose smells, and the mouth speaks? Didn't we say before that when you put on the light switch, everything gets lit up, and it's light all over? So how come if the neshama is, as we said before, gives power to everything, so why is there through one part of our body we see, one part of our body we hear, one part of our body we smell, the other one we speak, and the other one we move our hands, and the other one we move our feet? If it's neshama, then every part of our body should do the same thing. Mm-hmm. What? Think about the rationale. If the neshama is giving life force, so every part of our body should see. Every part of our body should hear and speak and so on and so forth. But nevertheless, you see, it doesn't work that way. You only see from your eyes, you only hear from your ears, and you smell from your nose, and you speak from your mouth, and you move your hands with your hands. But why? If you're saying the neshama gives everything its equal life force, then why is there a difference? And the answer is because there is the etzem haneshama that we spoke about before, which gives life. And from that perspective, there is no difference. It's a shot of energy. There is no difference. But then what happens is, let's skip over a second. We'll go back to the middle part. So from one extreme, the etzem haneshama gives off life. And when the etzem haneshama gives off life, it's not actually differentiated in eyes and hearing and hands. It's just a shot of energy. Now, then, and again, we're going to skip over, we'll come back to this. Then there is, on the other extreme, there's the physical body, which has hands, eyes, ears, etc., all the different functions that we have. And not from the etzem haneshama. From the etzem haneshama, it goes down to the next level of the neshama, where it's housed in our brain. And over there, when that neshama gives a life force, again, on one hand it gives to everywhere the same, but when it goes into the brain, from there, it transforms into a distribution center, that from there it sends out specific energy that works specifically in the eye. In other words, it's not only the physical eye that sees, but the neshama, which is in the brain, which is the distribution center of the powerful energy, in there sends out specific energy that goes to the eye, that allows the eye to see, that allows the hands to hear, and so on and so forth. Let me give you an example. Take, for example, I put that on the table, 10 clear glasses. And I take water, a pitcher of water, and I pour into 10 clear glasses water. And I'm not looking from the top, I'm looking out through the glasses. What do I see? I see 10 clear glasses of water. I said I put down 10 clear glasses, I put in water in each, I take 10 glasses. Now, what happens if I take those 10 clear glasses off and I put on 10 colored glasses? Pink, yellow, red, blue, purple, 10 different colors. Take water, put it in each one. And I look in, and I tell you, what color water do you see?
Color of the glass.
Color of the glass. Pink water, blue water, yellow water, purple water, and the kids already want to think it's Kool-Aid, right? It's an exercise. Relax. All right, no one, everyone thirsty? I'm getting everyone thirsty here. All right, different color of water. Now, the question is like this. When you see the water, what color is the water? It's irrelevant. It's the color that you see. Now, the reality is, the truth is, that the water in theory didn't change, but because you're seeing it through the glass, the water on some level does change. Now, when you take all the water, put it back in the pitcher, you're going to see clear water. Why? Because the water really didn't become part with the glass. However, when it comes to the neshama, when it sends out energy to the eye, the energy that goes to the eye is specific energy, not like the water that comes in diluted. It's regular water, and because the glass is pink, you see pink. The neshama, the brain that sends energy to the eye, is energy that allows it to see. So even though it's energy, and it came originally from a neutral place, but already in the brain, it actually created a almost like a color, right? A color to the energy, a certain dynamic to the energy that when it comes to the eye, wow, I can see. Or for example, what from the brain sends out a neshama energy to the ears. So then what happens is it's not just clear energy, it's actually already formed into the power that the neshama can hear. It goes into the technical vessel of the ears, and therefore you're able to hear. Same thing with the mouth to speak, with the hands to move, with the nose to smell, the feet to walk, and so on and so forth. Now, so the energy, the way it comes down into the specific vessel, whether it's the eyes, the ears, the mouth, the hands, the feet, whatever it may be. So there's the way the energy comes out in terms of Kabbalah, it's called lepoel, in actuality. So in actuality, it's a very, very, very specific energy for this specific vessel. Then there's a general energy that comes down, but also related to the vessels. So that is, so to speak, on one extreme, again, let's recap. On one extreme, the energy is 100% neutral, no color, no shape, no form. There's an energy that gives off to the body from top to the bottom. Everyone gets the same energy. In other words, the same energy that goes in the head and the heart, in the eyes, feet, all over, same energy. That's on one extreme. On the other extreme, when it goes down through a step-down version, which we're going to talk about the step-down in a minute, we'll get back to that in a second, but I want to give you the other extreme, we'll go back to the middle part. When it goes down to the final, so the energy that comes into each vessel is diluted and specific and packaged to give the right amount and the right quality of energy to that specific part of the body that's giving life force to. Again, eyes, ears, nose, mouth, every part of the body is specific. Okay, where does that all take place? That transformation. So that transformation takes place all where? In the neshama, the way it's sitting alive in the brain. So in the brain, basically, it's almost like a transformer. In the brain, receive this neutral energy, and in here is a transformer that sends out specific energy to the brain, to the heart, to the feet, to the hands, to the ears, to the eyes, and so on and so forth. In the brain. So in other words, you see the Alter Rebbe is describing three different types. The essence, and that part, every part of the body is the same. Then you have the way it comes down into the brain, and from there it transforms it from a neutral, where everything in theory would be the same, and actually we do have a part of that in us, where it actually transforms it and makes it personalized to what we need, and then the way it actually comes out into practicality and reality. Now, so what do you see clearly from here? When it comes to our bodies, which we're going to try to learn from our body, because that's what we can relate to much easier. On one hand, there is a godly energy, which we're going to call neshama, which we have, which is a very powerful, it's the most powerful part, which comes into us, which that level, there's no difference between the head and the feet, even on the heel on your feet, the nails on the feet, where it's such a low life energy, to the brain, everyone gets equally the same, from the higher source. We all have that. But then we also have the way it comes down into the brain and it gets diluted and everyone gets its specific energy, because the energy that's supposed to go to the eye, if it went to the feet, you're going to have a problem. You ain't going to be walking so good. Or if it's supposed to go to the feet, it's going to the eye, you're going to have a problem. So you have the specific energy that goes to each one. Now, how does that play out in the world? Very simple. There's the infinite part of God, which Kabbalah calls Oir Ein Sof. The infinite part of God. Totally infinite part of God. that infinite part of God, just like in a body, where we have that etzem haneshama, which is head, feet, everyone gets equal, that infinite part of God is in every part of the world. There is no part of the world, there's no part, place, time in the world that does not have a connection to the infinite Ein Sof, the infinite part of God. The biggest proof is very simple. Who created the world? Who created space? Who created time? God did. If God stops creating, what happens to everything? It's gone. So everything in this world has from the infinite part of God, just like every part of our body has from the source of the neshama. So in other words, if you're able to, and some righteous people could, and again, present company excluded, we're not going to publicize anyone's powers here, but if you're able to see beyond the surface, beyond the veneer, you will see the infinite part of God in everything. Like you look at this table, so we see a table. We're going to be humble, we're going to talk about it as a table, right? But the truth is, if you were able to see beyond the nakedness of the table, what would you see? The infinite power of God. That's what created it, and that's what maintains it. You look at a chair, what would you see? The infinite part of God. You look at anything, the walls. You look at people, what would you see? Hands, feet, head, hair, shirts. No, you would see the infinite part of God, if you're able to see that. Now, a tzaddik, a righteous person, sees that automatically, and that's why he only sees good and godliness. That's why the trick answer in this class is what? God and good. Because the truth is, in everything there's a part of God, and therefore in everything there's good. So when you're seeing other than godliness, and when you're seeing other than good, guess what you're seeing? Not the essence. So if you're able to look deep enough in everything, you know what you're going to see? What's the magic answer? Come on.
Good.
God and good. There you go. My 2 star pupils. God and good. Everyone can be a star pupil there. It's very simple. You have to memorize 2 words. God and good. If you're able to see deep beneath the surface, at some point, you will eventually see God.
God.
You don't have to eventually, you can see it right away. But the point is that eventually, if you dig deep enough, and if you're patient enough, what will you end up seeing? God.
Good.
And you will see good. Exactly. Home run.
Add O to
See
God.
God.
Add O to God and you have good.
Add O to God and you have good. There you go. I love it. Okay, so let's back. So everything in this world has the infinite part of God. Everything. From something as you look at a Chumash, a Torah, or to, not that the trash is bad, I'm just using something that you wouldn't think is God or godly for a minute. It all has on some level the same part of God. Right? It all because otherwise it wouldn't exist. How could a trash bag exist if it didn't have God in it? So the same vitality that gives, let's say, a Chumash energy, gives everything. A piece of wood, a piece of metal, anything. Everything has that. Literally from the infinite part of God. The problem we have is that we don't have the right glasses. I mean, we have the wrong glasses. But if we're able to look deeper, what would you see? You would see God. You wouldn't see the physical obscurity of God. Now, so that is when it comes to the infinite part of God, and that is really the essence. And that's why we believe the essence of every single human being and every single person in this world is all good. Because it's all from God. And not only it is God. So that's in terms of the essence. Just like in the Etzem HaNeshama, where the whole person gets the same. But let's go to the third step, like we discussed before. Just like, for example, the eye has specific energy that comes to the eye, which you can see and not hear. It could be pretty scary if you'd be able to hear from where you can see. Now, by the Matan Torah, when God gave the Torah, people were able to see from the ears, and they heard from the eyes. But that was like a one time. You need God around to make sure there's no botch up. People got scared. People fainted. It was scary. But in reality, there's nothing wrong. God can do anything. Okay. So, but just like the way God made it, the eye sees, because it's specific energy for the eye, and you can only see and not hear. The ear hears and doesn't see. Your mouth speaks, right, and doesn't see, and so on and so forth. So the same thing also God made in everything in the world. It has specific energy that allows that specific thing to function with that limited, finite energy. What does that mean? So in Hebrew it's called Or, light, and Chayut, an energy that's in the world. Now, what does that mean practically? Why does something have more light and something have less light? Very simple. Because God is infinite. And in order for God to create a finite world, so He allowed the light and the energy to create a symptom of concealment through garments. So for example, let's say we're in this room, and let's say there's a huge window, right? And there was no shades on the window. And it's during the day, let's say 12 o'clock a day, or whenever it's, perfect angle, or the skyline, right, sky roof, or totally sky window. Guess what? It'll be pretty bright in here. Something's too bright. So what you have to do is you have to put a garment. So there's different levels of a screen you can put. You can put a thick screen, you're going to get a little shade. You start putting, thinner holes, you're going to get more shade. So the more levushim, the more garments that you place to obscure the light, that's how much less you're going to have. And then, so quantitatively, but then also qualitatively, depending on the type of shield you're going to create, that's the type of light you're going to have for the specific purpose that you want. So in other words, like this. There's another type of light where God basically conceals and constrains the light, where it zooms in a specific amount for whatever is needed over there. Now, so we have two, in this world, again, we have, on one hand, everyone everywhere gets the same amount, but it's deep buried inside, but coming then from a deep part of God. But then we have our revealed connection, but again, depending on how much light there is, depending on how many garments, our job in life, we want to get closer to God, is sometimes to take off the garments. Hey, it's an obstruction. I want to see God. And you can take off some of the spiritual garments, the klipot, that are blocking for God to be revealed. Or if you feel like it's too much, so then obviously you can, put on some curtains so you don't get so much. But the reality is, even in the lowest level, what does it mean in the low? Even where the light is so concealed, where you do not see anything godly. Not only don't you see godly, but what do you see? You see counter to godliness. You see the opposite of peace and happiness and all the good things that should be in the world. So the garments are strong. God is not revealed. But even in those places, the author said, for example, there's the highest world, Atzilut. Atzilut means the curtains are opened. Bria already, now the curtains are closed. Yitzirah, it's closed more. Asiyah, it's closed more. Now, as it closes more, we can more exist. But God is more concealed. But the author says, even in the world of Asiyah, and now in the world of Asiyah, this materialistic world, there's 4 different levels of God revelation. There is the highest level of Medaber, because we can talk about God, even though it's it's not apparent. Then there's chayot, animals. You see the way animals, nature, you can obviously say, oh my God, someone created this stuff, someone's maintaining this stuff, so you see God, which is less than us. Then you have things that grow. So again, if you look at nature, the way things grow, you can see there's a God, but you have to actually start looking closer to nature and paying more attention. And then you have, for example, doimim. So the author says, doimim, inanimate. You look at a piece of cement in this materialistic world and you say, where's God there? I mean, come on. Like I tell people, when the Messiah comes, the cement is going to say to you, why'd you step on me? What right? And they start laughing when the cement's going to talk. Yes, we don't think it talks now. It doesn't talk now because you don't think it talks. We don't see it. We're seeing concealment. But the fact is, in the doimim, which means the inanimate cement that exists in this world, in this materialistic world, where God is concealed, guess what? Even though God's concealed, absolutely, because it's, again, 4 worlds down. In this world, 4 rungs down of energy. It's like the lowest of godly energy. God is like totally masked and totally covered. But guess what? In that mask that exists, God, the infinite power of God, is in there as well. Sure, it's in there. God's in there. God's in that part as well. So in other words, what do you see the author is saying is that there's 2 different levels of energy. There's one level of energy, Maloi Chala Aretz Kavodo, that God's presence is everywhere. There's no place in the world that God is not. That means when you're going through the greatest experiences in life, God is there. You're going through the hardest struggles and challenges, God is there as well. Melech Haaretz Kodesh, God is there. The same God all over. On the other hand, there are certain places God's more revealed. When you're going through a good experience that you see as good. When you're going through a challenging experience, God is probably more concealed. And they're both correct. It's not a contradiction. From one perspective, when we say God is all over, whether we feel it or we don't feel it, that's God's all over. He's deep down, He's in there. When you say God is revealed and not revealed, you're talking about the revelation part of God. But what's interesting, the author brings out something very, very powerful and extremely helpful. And that's as follows. What did we say before? When we use the analogy of Mibsari Echse Eloka, when I look at my flesh, I see godliness. Now what does that mean? What did we say before? That the God on one hand is all over. Which part of God? The source of our soul. Then it goes into the brain. Now from there, from the brain, that's the distribution center where it distributes energy to all over your body. So from the brain itself, it distributes to the brain, even though it houses it, but still needs energy. So the first stop is the brain. It goes to the heart, to the hands, the feet, the eyes, and everything. Now, so again, the distribution center of all godly energy, the limited finite energy which is personalized, all starts where? In the brain. So in simple English, who's the king of the distribution center of godly energy? The brain. The brain is the king. Because it starts from the brain. It starts from the brain. So therefore, what did the author say before? He was explaining what the Zohar says, that the wise person, his eyes are in his head. What does that mean? Everyone's eyes are in the head. But he realizes that where does it all start from? The distribution from the brain. And how do you feed the brain? How do you feed the distribution center? Because it's all coming from godly energy. What does God want? Mitzvot. So the wise person has his head on this, his eyes are in his head. That doesn't mean physically his eyes are in his head, even though it's true. But his eyes are in his head, realizing, oh my gosh, where does all my energy from my whole body come from? It comes from the brain. So in other words, if I have a problem with my hand, is this where the problem is, or is the problem in the brain? In the brain. So if I want to basically fix my hand, my heart, my eyes, where do I fix it? In the eyes? No, you got to go back to the brain. What is spiritually the brain? That's the place where God, the neshama, is. How do you feed the neshama? By doing mitzvot. And every time you do a mitzvah, and another mitzvah, and you refrain from sinning, and you hold back from sinning, you're actually feeding the brain, so the brain is strong, and that it produces powerful and godly energy to all your body. So here you have like powerful insight. Don't deal with the symptoms. Deal with the root of the problem. The root of everything, go back to the distribution center. Where is the distribution center? In the brain. You want the brain to work? So what does the Zohar say? Feed it. What are you feeding the brain? Not chocolate bars and ice cream, right? You feed it mitzvot. When you do a mitzvah, it feeds the brain. And if you feed the brain the right food, you take care of the brain, you recognize God, guess what happens? He sends more and the proper energy to your eyes, into your ears, into your mouth, into your heart, into every part of your body. Every part of your body. And the author says something so powerful, which is really practical. What happens a lot of times in life, really practical advice, a lot of times in life, we get nervous. Present company excluded. Right? Sometimes we get nervous, anxious, worried, afraid, right? Our faith is shaking. All these emotions. Now, the reality is all these stirrings, where does that take place? In the heart. So what's the first reaction? Oh my gosh, I don't feel well, right? My faith is shaking, right? I'm afraid of this, I'm anxious. If you can even at least articulate what your problem is. I'm anxious, I'm nervous, I'm worried. So the author says, hold on a second, what we just learned? The Alter says very, very simple. What did we just learn here? A very, very powerful line, which is a powerful foundation in true spiritual healing. Moyach shalit al halev, and I'll translate. The mind rules the heart. Who sends energy to the heart? The heart. It doesn't start with the heart. If the heart is the one that started producing the energy, then you're right. If you're afraid, talk to your heart. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, right? Don't be worried. That's correct if it started in the heart. What does the Alter say in this chapter? 51. Nun Aleph. Where does it start? It all starts in the brain. So why are you talking to the heart to fix a problem in the heart? Because you have a problem with the heart? I got it, you have a problem with the heart, but where does the heart get its energy from? The brain. The heart gets it from the brain. So in other words, so who rules over the heart? Not the heart. The brain. Moyach shalit al halev. So if you have a problem with your heart, you're not feeling great today, right? You're feeling worried, anxious, go pay a visit to your brain and reprogram it. Life is good. What we say before, God created the world and God is good. And therefore, if God is good, so the brain sends down a message to the heart, life is good. Life is great. Be happy. Now, when the brain sends the message to the heart, if the heart feels differently, so well, I don't feel happy. You know what happens to those feelings?
They disappear.
They disappear. Because the moyach, the brain, shalit, rules. You know what rules means? It rules over the heart. It has the power to tell the heart, have a good day, we're sending down new life force. Right? We're sending down new troops, good troops, godly troops, troops with faith, troops with happiness. Gone. In other words, you're learning such a powerful idea today that ultimately, where does the distribution center for all the energy in every part of your body come from? The brain. So therefore, if you change the brain, everything in your body changes. Up to the point, we all know, if someone's nervous, for example, they're walking slow and they're walking like they're a failure, right? What does the brain tells you you're a winner? Oh my gosh, this person, every part of your body, you walk like a hero. Every part of your body, every part of your heart, everything changes for the better. All because you worked with the distribution center and you changed the message in the mind, which eventually changed the message throughout the body. So here you see this powerful chapter of Tanya. Perek Nun Aleph 51 teaches you, and we'll recap. Number one is, every one of us, every part of the world has 100% in the connection to God. If you look deep enough, you'll find it. Number two, and that's equal. Number two is, we have a distribution center in our mind that sends off energy specific to every part of our body. And every part of our body receives it. But ultimately, if we want to change something in any part of our body, go to the source. And the source is in the brain. And if we change the way we think, we will change the way we feel, we will change the way we behave. And the good thing is we have full access to our brain by praying, by studying Torah, by meditating, by having a rabbi, a mentor, or a teacher, because they'll change the way you think, and the minute you change the way you think, it will automatically change the way you feel. Why work with the feelings when it'll keep on going back and forth? Go to the source. And this chapter, the Alter teaches us where the source is, who the source is, how to access the source. And if we access the source, we'll be able to totally transform our lives to live a much better life and a much happier life and a much more meaningful life.